Today we are going to be talking about different types of theater spaces and the folks who work there. When we think about a theater space, the most common space that we probably think about is a proscenium space. The distinguishing feature of a proscenium space is the archway that divides the playing space from the audience. Not surprisingly, this is called the proscenium arch. Some other features that a proscenium typically has is that the stage space is elevated above the floor level of the audience. Much of the time, the stage floor goes out beyond the front of that proscenium arch, and oftentimes there is a big hole in the ground there where the orchestra goes, known as the orchestra pit. The area behind and above the proscenium arch is known as the Fly Loft. That's where the scenery can be stored using fly lines and brought in and out for different scenes. Once in a while, a proscenium stage will have what's known as a raked stage, which is where the back of the stage is at a higher angle than the front of the stage. And this is where our common stage directions of downstage and upstage come from. The thrust theater is similar to a proscenium. The main difference is that the stage area comes out into the audience a little bit more, and the audience tends to be spread across three sides of that stage rather than being primarily on the front one side of the stage. Sometimes thrust stages have that proscenium arch, and sometimes they don't. Michigan State University's thrust theater is the Passant, and it is located at the Wharton Center. Another type of theater space is a theater in the round. The challenge of having audience on all four sides is making sure that all audience members have visibility and can see the story unfold. So for scenery, this means that there can't be any large walls, and most of the scenery has to stay, waist height and lower. Here are a couple of examples of plays that were produced in the round. So the first one is Outside Mullinger, and you can see that there's nothing really taller than that stone wall that is not quite waist height. For productions in the round, props and furniture and floor coverings really play a major role in indicating location. A black box space is a flexible space that can be arranged in different ways to best fit the play that's being produced. So often you will have audience members on two sides in the corner. Sometimes you'll do an alleyway where the audience are facing each other. You can also arrange a black box space to be a thrust arrangement where you have audience on three sides. At Michigan State University, our flexible black box space is the Studio 60 theater space, which is located in the auditorium building. An arena type theater is basically what it sounds like. It's a large space with a centralized stage and raked seating. Oftentimes, this is the type of space for large concerts. Another really exciting option is found spaces. So these are site-specific spaces that are indicative of a group of people who are really passionate about the play that they are producing, but maybe they don't have the capital to rent a larger theater space, or they are a found space that is really an environmental experience for the audience as it relates more viscerally to the play. So during the process of putting on a play, the rehearsals most often take place in a rehearsal space, a large open room Typically, one side has mirrors, a piano. The stage management team has taped out the outline of the set on the floor. And that is where a majority of the rehearsals and the music rehearsals will take place. Once a production gets into what's known as technical rehearsals, they will move the rehearsals to the stage. Typically, before actual technical rehearsals start, there will be 2 or 3 rehearsals known as spacing rehearsals, where it's just director, stage management team. Once in a while, a scenic designer will be there, and actors to help them get accustomed to the scenery, the actual physical scenery, which is a lot different than referencing spike tape on the floor. If you are on run crew for a show, you probably went to a couple of run-throughs at the rehearsal space, and during tech rehearsal, you'll really start to get adjusted to that stage space and really learn your role in the production. Another important space that most theaters have is the costume shop. I'm not going to go into this too much because you'll be learning about this area in the costume section. Typically, there is a space within a theater building where there is what is known as the electric shop. And this is less of a space to create, but more of a space to upkeep and maintain equipment and also to store equipment. Typically, it's not large and it's not glorious, but it is very useful. The next area I want to talk to you about is props. We'll go into props a lot more in detail in another lecture, but as far as the space goes, sometimes props are housed within scenery, but much of the time there is an individual props shop. A lot of the same skills that are used in costuming and scenic are used in props. But a lot of the time it's more detailed than the work that is done in the scene shop. Most theaters have a scene shop space, but if they don't, then oftentimes the sets will be built in right on stage or in somebody's garage. As you can see in this picture, scene shops will have large tables. Oftentimes there will be a lot of sawhorses that you can set up and build your own tables to construct scenery on. Around the edges are all different sizes and types of lumber, which we'll go into more detail on the different types of lumber. There's usually a tool area, like a little tool crib or a special tool room. Most scene shops have a paint area. Some theaters have an individual paint shop or paint space. A lot of scene shops will do metal work, so they'll have an individual area for these specialty types of construction. Because of the variety of set pieces needed for individual shows, the scene shops really require a diverse amount of tools and materials. So we'll be going over some of these in future lectures as well as when you spend time in the lab. It's important to remember to stay safe in any of the spaces that we've talked about today. In theater, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things coming together to put on one cohesive show. And you need to be very aware of your surroundings in order to keep yourself safe in that environment. Make sure to communicate. If you need help, make sure to ask for it. Be involved, stay alert. Make sure that you're helping those around you who need help. And then understand your tools. So instead of guessing how to operate something, ask somebody who knows. That could be a faculty member, a staff member, an upperclassman or a student staff member who has operated that equipment or worked in the shop before. So what are some ways that you can keep yourself and others around you safe in the scene shop? Long hair is a beautiful thing, but in the scene shop, we do need to have it up in a bun or a ponytail that's nice and tucked up so that it cannot get caught in things like the table saw or the drill gun. And we all have our own individual fashion, but when you come into the scene shop to help construct the sets, you really do need to wear clothing that is appropriate, that is not too baggy, as baggy clothing will get caught in some of those tools and you don't want to experience that. You do want to wear appropriate footwear when you come into the scene shop. You want to have your toes covered. You don't want to be in heels or something that you can easily trip in. You need to have a sturdy foundation for helping move scenic pieces. You want to make sure you have those eyeballs covered. So face shield or goggles or safety glasses are great options. And if you are headed to the scene shop, you need to make sure that you remember yours. If you don't remember them, there are some at the scene shop that you can use. If you want to wear your glasses underneath the goggles or the safety glasses or the shield, that's perfectly acceptable. You don't, however, want to wear the safety glasses that are also sunglasses. And last but not least is ear protection. A lot of the tools at the scene shop are very, very loud, and you want to make sure that you're protecting your eardrums. Things that are not allowed are earbuds or other types of headphones.